Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and it's back. I'm here to bring you yet again another rant segment right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly. Once again, here to bring you yet again another rant segment. Now, before I get into this rant segment, I gotta go ahead and I gotta throw out a brief message because I know that a lot of you guys and gals watch my rant segment, so I gotta go ahead and throw this out here to get this message out because it's really starting to become a problem. And that is, while I love the requests I get. Don't ever think that I don't. I actually do enjoy receiving all the requests I get for videos and whatnot. But there are a handful of requests that I keep receiving, and the reason for that is because it's my fault, because I didn't clear this up beforehand. So let me go ahead, take this time, clear this up with you guys now, okay? The series Breaking Bad, Mad Men, Walking Dead, The Wire, Deadwood, all of those series, stop sending requests for, because I don't watch them. It's not that I don't watch them because I don't like them. I've never gotten around to watching them. You see what I'm saying? I haven't seen these series, so I can't do both. I can't do a review, and I damn sure can't do a favorite heroes, favorite villains, because I don't know any of the characters in any of these series. I don't watch these series. I haven't kept up with these series. You feel me? So it's not that I won't check them out in the future. I mean, hell, who knows? I probably will. But what I'm saying is I haven't, as of today, as of Saturday, July, As of Saturday, no, I said July. Fuck. Whew. Where have I been for the past week, right? As of Saturday, August 11 at 4:39 p.m. Central Standard Time, I have not watched these series. So stop sending requests for them. Just want to clear that up. But keep the requests coming for other series that I may have seen. Hopefully that I have seen. Okay. Alright. Now, one more message. And I really do got to get this one out because this is now starting to get under my skin. Stop sending Berserk requests. I have absolutely no intent, or I have no intention and no initiative rather, to read or watch that series. And I sure as hell am not going to waste my time reviewing the shit. Okay? I'm not going to do it. So stop sending the Berserk reviews, okay? Stop. I'm not going to do it. And the reason for that is because you all, the fan base, have killed any chance of me getting into it. Because you pushed too hard. You came too strong, too damn soon, okay? It's like, oh man, you gotta check out Berserk. Oh man, Berserk is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Oh, you gotta check it out. Oh, you gotta check it out. But the only thing that anyone has ever talked about Berserk is the violence. That's it. And I'm not talking about anything that's occurred over the last couple of weeks. No, this has been going on for months. For months. Every Berserk request I've ever received, all anyone ever says about the series is the violence. That's it. Not the characters, not the story. You know, it's not like there's a big story twist that I got to check out. It's not the animation. I know it's not the animation quality because it's an older series. And that's the thing. I've seen Berserk before, but I was like in middle school? You see what I'm saying? Like, and I don't remember I don't remember 2/3 of the shit that occurs in that fucking series, okay? I mean, it's not like I haven't seen it before. I've seen it before, okay? And you know what? Back then, when I was young and stupid and naive, I probably did enjoy it. But now, you know, like I said, I got standards, man. Whether you like my standards or not, that's up to you. But I am not going to waste my time on another gore fest. It's like I said, I don't dig pornography. I don't like violence for violence sake. And if that's all that this series has to contribute is violence for violence sake, that's not enough to intrigue me. Sorry. So stop sending the Berserk requests. Now, I've gone on about that for 5 minutes. Let's get into what this rant is about. This rant is about two parties under the same company. And that is DC Comics and Warner Brothers Studios. This rant is about pretty much the issues I've been having with both. Now, I want to address DC Comics first, because this rant, for all intensive purposes, is a heartbreaker for me. Why? Because I'm a DC guy. I like DC Comics. I like the DC superheroes. I grew up with them. I like them. I like them a hell of a lot more than I like Marvel, which is kind of funny. Matter of fact, I should probably explain where I stand on American Comics #1. Okay. I used to read American Comics when I was little. And I actually have my big cousin to thank for that. Shout out to my man, Armin J. If you're watching this, shout out to my big cuz. Because he was one of my early introductions into comic books. Because, I grew up watching the cartoons. But, my first Batman comic I read when I was over at his house, because he used to collect a lot of comics books. Now, like I said, in my early adolescence, I was big into DC. Why? Because, DC had all the popular cartoons out, back in the early 90s. They had Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, the Batman Superman Adventures, for any of you guys who remember that, Batman Beyond, Super Friends, so that's what I was into, I was into DC Comics. I was into the DC superheroes. That was my introduction into American comic books. But when I got into my awkward teen years, of course, you got to up the ante. That's when I started getting into the dark and edgy stuff. And you're going to see me do this, dark and edgy, a lot in the course of this fucking video. The reason for that is because I'm making fun of it, okay? So yeah, in the awkward teenage years, the 13 to 15 years, you need something dark and edgy. So I looked to Marvel. Why? Because that's what Marvel made its namesake off of. The dark and edgy superheroes. They had the superheroes who were, #1, younger. #2, they weren't Boy Scouts. #3, they were a lot more relatable for their readers because they dealt with a lot of real world issues. Like I said, DC Comics, for all intents and purposes, a lot of their characters were Boy Scouts and a lot of their characters were cookie cutters. Not only that, a lot of their characters were already adults, whereas Marvel offered the darker, edgier, younger, because most of Marvel's superheroes, when they first started out, were teenagers. And I'm not talking about like early teens. I'm talking about somewhere between like 16 and the early 20s. Like they were really young. Classic example of that would be Spider-Man. Spider-Man was a teenager. The X-Men were teenagers. The Fantastic Four, Johnny Storm, Flaming Torch was a teenager. Let's see. Ooh, brain fart right quick. Bruce Banner Bruce was barely out of his 20s. When the Incredible Hulk, Bruce was barely out of his 20s. Ghost Rider, same thing. Johnny Blaze was like what, mid-20s? You see what I'm saying? They offered a younger roster of superheroes. And so with that said, when I was a teenager, I dug the Marvel thing. But now that I'm a young adult, I'm favoriting DC more. And the reason for that is because I enjoy the wholesomeness that DC offered. You see what I'm saying? DC didn't have to do the dark and edgy thing. They didn't need it. You see what I'm saying? DC had already made a name for itself based off of its iconic characters. And they used those characters to propel it to the status that it was. Now, that's not to say that their characters didn't have these dark stories. I mean, Under the Red Hood, Death in the Family, two of the darkest Batman stories you will ever read, They had Kingdom Come. They had Crisis on Two Earths. Final Crisis. They had, you know, you had the Darkest Night event. Batman Rest in Peace. You see what I'm saying? They've had dark stories. So, you know, you've had The Killing Joke. You've had The Long Halloween. You've had the Dark Knight Returns. You've had the vertical stuff like Watchmen, Sandman. You've had V for Vendetta. You see what I'm saying? You've had, like, I want to say Nemesis is a DC character too. You see what I'm saying? So DC has had its dark stories. But pretty much, like I said, I like DC. I'm a DC guy. I'm a DC guy. Why? Because I like the DC characters. I really do. But that's going to get into my beef with DC Comics. Especially with this, the recent announcement of the reboot thing. Okay? Let's face it. The reboot is bullshit. They do this every 5 years as this ploy to try and get in new readers. And when I say they do it like every 5 years, what I mean is they'll take a book and they'll start it off with like a new creative team, and they'll start the number on it again. So you'll have, like, you know, Aquaman. You know, Aquaman will be like in, you know, the 400s, and then they'll just randomly restart it at number 1 with a new creative team as a stupid ploy to try and get the readers to think that, oh, this is the number 1 of Aquaman. Oh, look. No, it doesn't work. It didn't work for you 5 years ago. It didn't work 5 years before that. And it didn't work 5 years before that. Now, a wise man once said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over, expecting a different result. Someone at DC is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs right now. Okay? They flew all over the cuckoo's nest a long time ago. Batshit crazy, okay? They're making the Joker look like fucking Stephen Hawking's right now, okay? Somebody in DC is batshit crazy because they keep doing this. And it's not just DC. Marvel does this shit all the time too. All the time they fucking do this shit, okay? So the idea of this grand reboot, it's stupid. It's stupid and it's idiotic. Why? Because number 1, you won't bring in new readers. You won't. All you'll do is you'll piss off the readers that you already had. And I'm sorry, but the American comic book industry is this close from flatlining. You are in no position to start pulling off this bullshit, okay? You can't afford to lose the readers you already have. And you won't bring in new readers with this ploy. And if you do bring in new readers, they won't stay very long, okay? So with that said, that's where I stand on the reboot. And I know you guys have been asking me for quite a while, where do I stand? What's my take on the DC reboot? Well, that's my take. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Okay. Now, so apparently what they're going to do is they decided to take all 52 of the DC titles and they decided to reboot them. New creative teams and whatnot. They even did new character designs. And where do I stand on that shit? Same thing. It's bullshit. I'm sorry. I like my Superman with the red overalls, okay? Now, I'm not saying that the blue pants with the red belt, I'm not saying it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. It does look good. But I'm an old school type of guy. I'm an OG. I like my Superman with the red overalls and the yellow belt. Thank you very much. Okay? But like I said, what's going on with this reboot, okay, it's not just the new creative teams and, the new designs and shit like that. The new stories. For fuck's sake, man, the new stories. They aren't interesting at all. For all the problems that I had with Batman Incorporated, I gave Grant Morrison the benefit of the doubt because he was doing something new with the Batman franchise that had never been done before. You see what I'm saying? I didn't like Batman Incorporated. I didn't like the idea of having all these motherfuckers running around claiming to be Batman. You know, making it into a franchise. I didn't like that. Why? Because Batman lost his mystique. But with that said, no one had ever done that before. So I gave it a pass. I gave it the benefit of the doubt. Because it was new. Because it was new, because it was intriguing, and because it was something that I could probably engage in. These new stories don't do that. And they won't do that for new readers. Okay? If you can't, no, real talk. If you can't pull in the old readers, you won't pull in the new ones either. You won't. And that's just the facts. Now, granted, you might be able to get some little kids, but to say that a lot of today's American comic book industry is whoring itself out for pornography, you gotta have the racy sexual depictions, and you gotta have, the violent gore fests, you won't be able to sell that shit to little kids in the first place. So you kind of shoot yourself in the foot right there, my friend. So to give a classic example of some of the bullshit I'm talking about, I gotta do a shout out to my man Hugo Strange, because on his Facebook page he posted up this website. It was an article about Harley Quinn's new reboot costume, and I'll go ahead and I'll put a link to that in the description box. But yeah, I went ahead and I looked at that shit. That's bullshit. Honestly, the shit looks retarded. It looks fucking ridiculous. No, I mean, let's talk about this, because too many times, in comic books, honestly, let's face it, they degrade women. Comic books degrade women. I'm not just talking about American comic books either. Even Japanese manga degrades women. They degrade women back and forth. They're demeaning. You literally just subject women to being the object of the gaze. And you really just make them nothing but sex objects. They've been doing this for years. They've been doing this for decades. Me sitting up here ranting about it is not going to change anything about it. I know that. I know that. I know that. I've come around to accept the fucking fact. I don't like it, but I've come to accept it because it's not going to change. I mean, shit, let's face it. That's the fucked up way the world works anyway. We men, being a male-dominated world, we degrade women anyway. That's how fucked up we are. So I know that's not going to change. But for all intents and purposes, this just takes that shit to a whole nother fucking level. And I mean, honestly, what more can I say about this shit, okay? Honestly, what this reboot is going to offer us. I'm not saying that we won't get no interesting stories out of this reboot. Who knows? We might. There might actually be a diamond in the rough amongst this shit that we're about to get with this DC reboot. There might be a couple of good stories, but for the most part, I don't see any being good. I don't. I really don't. And with that said, you guys are probably saying, it's like, well, Larry, you're sitting up here, you've been sitting up here for what, 18 minutes, and you've been sitting up here bitching, whining, moaning, complaining about, oh, this is what's wrong with comics, and this is that and the other. What can we do to, but what's the solutions? You ain't talking about no solutions. These are the solutions. First off, as far as creative teams goes, as far as writers, as far as artists, inkers, pencilers, colorists, editors, especially the editors, as far as all that goes, we need to have people who do this for more than a paycheck. We need motherfuckers who genuinely care about these characters, who cares about these companies, who cares about these titles. That's what we need. You wanna know why? Because diehard fans of this shit would not let this shit happen. They wouldn't. They would pump their fists before this idiotic bullshit took place, okay? They wouldn't let this shit slide. And that's what we need. We need die-hard fucking fans. We need comic book enthusiasts to be at the forefront of these projects. That's what we desperately need. We need it like a fucking asthmatic needs insulin, okay? Yeah, okay. That's what we need. We need it like a fat man needs cake, okay? We are in desperate need of that. But with that said, we also need capital. We need some cash flow coming back into this industry. For the most part, they've managed to do that through the films and through the cartoons and through the video games. But the comic books themselves need to start generating more profit. The way to do that, cut back on all these fucking editions, okay? Because if you have 10 to 12 fucking editions of one book, that already decreases the value of that book. Why? Because there's 10 or 12 versions of it out there, okay? We need to get back into the limited edition thing. You see what I'm saying? We need to, let's get back into the limited edition hardbacks, man, okay? Let's get back into that shit, because that's what's going to get people to invest in these books, because they know that, oh, this book has a kick-ass story, it has kick-ass artwork, and it's a limited edition. There's only so many of these books that exist in the world, okay? Do not be afraid to let these books go out of print, okay? That's what's going to make these books appreciate with value. If they're not everywhere, if these books are oversaturated, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck if I don't have X-Men? Who gives a fuck if I don't have Astonishing X-Men number 15? Why? Because there's 10 or 12 different editions of it. You see what I'm saying? We need to get back into that. We need to get back into the trade. We need to have, you know, I have a lot of friends who they only pick up books on the trade. They don't go out and buy them, you know, when they you know, hot off the press. And we need more people doing that, honestly. In addition to more money being put in, we also need more word of mouth. It's funny to say that, you know, we have the internet, we have the information superhighway, and, you know, news about the latest comic books only gets so far. It's astonishing to me how that happens. You know, I mean, like I said, I mean, I've been out of comic books for so long because I can't get engaged in them. That's why I don't just go out and pick them up. And the reason for that is because I find out about them online. You know, perfect examples of this: Doomore and what was when they turned Daredevil into a villain? What was that called? I'm trying to remember. Shit, I forget the name of the books. I'm talking about these were like Marvel books because you had Doom War and you had shit, I forget the name of that little series. But you see what I'm saying? Like those books, I read about them online before I did. You know, for me to be like, oh man, I want to go, you know, pick these up, I gotta read about them first. I gotta know what people are saying about them. You see what I'm saying? And I found out about those books relatively late. Well, Doom War I found out about relatively late. The other I didn't. I mean, I found out, you know, when it came out, and then we had like Fear Itself, which I wasn't intrigued to get into that at all from Jump Street, but I was able to find out about those books because you know I'm a member of well, not a member, but I follow the Marvel Facebook page, and you know they constantly update that fucking page. But it's like I said, we need more people talking about this shit. You feel me? You know, I should be able to, you know, to hit up, you know, I can only go to a handful of people about comic book news. I should be able to, you know, go talk to my man Chris and be like, yo, Chris, you know, what's going on in Marvel? What's going on in DC? I should be able to, you know, hit people up on YouTube and be like, hey man, what's going on in Marvel? What's going on in DC? You know? The indie books. Who's talking about the indie books? You know? Let's get into the indie books, man. You know? Okay, another solution. Man, this is gonna be a long video because I haven't even gotten into my Warner Brothers rant yet. But let's get into from the creative aspect of comics. What's the solutions? What's fixes? How can we engage new readers? Number one, and I've said this time and time again, and I'll say this until I'm in the grave. Create new characters. That's how you engage new readers and a new audience, especially younger readers and a younger audience. Create new characters. I'm going to say that again, in case you fuckers are hard of hearing, or you might just be stupid and you don't understand me. Okay? Create new characters. That's how you're going to get a new audience. That's how you're going to get new readers. You want to know why? Because if readers find a character that they like, that they can rally around, that they can relate to, that they know is new, that has never existed before their introduction to this character, that's the incentive that they need to get engaged with the character. Okay? Classic example of that. I've always said this before, and I'll say this again. I'm a huge fan of Batman Beyond. I love the Batman Beyond animated series. Why? Because that introduced Terry McGinnis, a character that I knew nothing about prior to my introduction to that character. And come to find out, why? There was nothing to learn about him because he was a new character. He showed up when I got into the series, because I remember watching Batman Beyond when it premiered. You see what I'm saying? I followed that character from his first introduction all the way until the present. And the reason for that was because that was a character I could get behind. Why? Because that was my Batman. That was my Batman. That wasn't my dad's Batman. That wasn't my grandfather's Batman. As much as I love Bruce Wayne, that wasn't Bruce Wayne. It was a new Batman. You see what I'm saying? Now, it seems to me that especially these big companies can't let go of these iconic characters. They just can't. For some fucking reason, they know that's their cash cows. Those characters built their company, so they can't let them go. They will never get rid of Superman. They will never get rid of Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Flash, Martian Manhunter, Hawkman, Hawkgirl. They'll never get rid of these characters. So if you're not going to get rid of them, introduce new variations of these characters. Okay? The Green Lantern. How many fucking Green Lanterns have the? Actually, let me go ahead and I'm gonna reset this. Let me go ahead and reset this alarm right quick, cause this thing going off every 5 minutes is gonna start pissing me off. Okay? Okay. We're all good. But honestly, how many Green Lanterns have they had? How many fucking Green Lanterns have they had? What you had? You had what's your boy name? Is it Alan Scott? I believe was the first. You had of course Hal Jordan, the most popular one. Guy Gardner, John Stewart, the Green Lantern that I knew about Green Lantern prior to John Stewart, but when I got into DC like heavy was through John Stewart. Kyle Rayner, he was a fucking cartoonist. I grew up wanting to be a cartoonist, so that was a Green Lantern I was able to relate to. You see what I'm saying? Clear-cut fucking example. How many fucking Flashes have there been? Let's see. Barry Allen. What you had? Barry Allen. You had Wally West, Bart. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, you've had multiple Flashes. Create new incarnation of these characters, and I guarantee you will create a new fan base, because there will be people who will like these characters, and especially if that character is an underdog in the pantheon of fucking comic book superheroes. You see what I'm saying? Especially like if he's the least favorite, if there's a lot of people that don't like that character, that's all the more incentive for the people that do like him to rally behind that character and really stand up for them. You create brand loyalty that way. That's how you create brand loyalty. You have to give your audience and your readers a reason to give a shit. Just like I read an article last night about the new Spider-Man. Apparently they made a biracial Spider-Man. You know, they killed off Peter Parker, which they'll bring him back anyway. In the Ultimate Universe, they killed off Peter Parker, and they have like this new biracial Spider-Man. Now, granted, I'm all for, you know, I am a diehard enthusiast. You know, I feel like, you know, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Peter Parker will always be Spider-Man as far as I'm concerned. But with that said, I don't knock the fact that they made a new one. I actually applaud that, and this came from Brian Michael Bendis of all fucking people, who I was a huge fan of his early work, but you know, all of his Avengers stuff, I fell out of all his Avengers stuff. Why? Because I felt like it didn't hold up to his older work. Like his work on like Daredevil, I thought was like fantastic. And so compared to that, you know, the Avengers stuff just, I feel like it hasn't held up to his previous work. You know, it's that thing about, it's like, well, dude, like, it's like if a good actor, take Nick Cage for an example. You know, Nick Cage does all these bullshit movies nowadays, right? But he's done kick-ass fucking movies in the past, and it's like, what the fuck, dude? It's like, I know you're better than this. I've seen your work. You've done it before. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, Brian Michael Bendis made a biracial fucking Spider-Man. I'm sorry, but I'm going to support that because somebody has actually had the gall to do something like that. I have to support it. Now, will that say that I'm going to pick up the book and, you know, follow the character and get into that? Probably not, because the one picture I saw of the little bastard, he was ugly as fuck. I mean, that's kind of fucked up to say, but I mean, honestly, he was ugly. I also enjoy characters that are visually appealing. He wasn't visually appealing. He was pretty ugly. So with that said, you know, I mean, I don't know how much I can stress that. I don't know how much more I can really stress that, okay? That's the key. That's the fucking key. And I can go, and if I really got into the whole writing aspect of comics nowadays, that's going to be a whole nother fucking rant in itself. So with that said, because I think I'm at what? Yeah, I'm at 32 minutes. Let's get into the Warner Brothers aspect of this fucking rant, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set my timer again, because I know this fucker's about to go off. So let me go ahead and adjust this right quick. Okay. Adjusted. Now, Warner Brothers. And this is going to be Warner Brothers as it pertains to their DC Comics adaptations. Because they fucking suck. Warner Brothers fucking sucks with their DC film adaptations. Yes, you have the Nolan Batmans. Yes, you have the Zack Snyder Man of Steel, which I am looking forward to so much, okay? I think that film is going to change all the naysayers, all the Superman naysayers. I think that film is going to change their perspective on who the character really is. Or rather, no. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. If you want to take any quote about what Larry Williams said about Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, that film will not change everyone's idea of who the character is. It won't. It will change their idea of who the character can be. What you can do if you took a well-established character and you wanted to be creative and show him in a new light and in a different perspective without destroying who that character is. You are pretty much striving to present a portrayal of what that character could be. Quote me on that, because Larry said it first. That film is going to show all the Superman naysayers of what Superman could be if you gave a damn about the character and about the material. I said it here first. Quote, that's a quote for your ass. So, like I said, with the exception of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, and with the exception of Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, and of course with the Donner's Christopher Reeve Supermans, DC has sucked in making DC comic book superhero film adaptations. The list. Where do I start? Starting with Superman 4, the Quest for Peace, to what we got. We got the Schumacher Batmans. We got Catwoman. We got The Losers. We got Watchmen, which for all intents and purposes, the only thing about that movie that I really like is the acting. Well, I mean, Watchmen, I like and I both hate that film for various reasons. And I'd rather not get into it in this rant, one, for time purposes, and two, because I would much rather get into that in like an official Watchmen film review. I would much rather that, like, that's actually a film that I would really like to review, and I probably will later on down the line. So I won't get into that. But Watchmen, V for Vendetta, another film that I both love and hate for various reasons. DC. Oh, and then of course, Green Lantern. DC. Oh, not DC, Warner Brothers. When it comes to DC comic book film adaptations, you don't get it. You don't understand. If you motherfuckers think I'm just blowing smoke up their ass, I'm going to read you an article courtesy of superherohype.com entitled Warner Brothers President on Green Lantern 2 and The Flash. I'm going to read it verbatim just so you guys will know what the fuck I'm talking about. Clear-cut fucking example. Let me go ahead and get a drink of water before I get into this. Okay. Warner Brothers President on Green Lantern 2 and The Flash. While Green Lantern still has 22 more countries to open up in, the box office results for the comic book adaptation have been less than stellar, having cost about $200 million to make, not counting marketing costs. The Martin Campbell directed film has earned $114 million domestically and $40 million internationally, for a worldwide total of just $154 million so far, worldwide. According to Warner Brothers Film Group President Jeff Robinoff, however, they are still thinking about moving ahead with a sequel. He tells the Los Angeles Times that, and I quote, "We have a decent opening. We had a decent opening, so we learned there's an audience. To go forward, we need to make it a little edgier and darker, with more emphasis on action. And we have to find a way to balance the film, and we have to find a way to balance the time the movie spends in space versus on Earth." End quote. And I'll go ahead and I'll discontinue with reading the article right there. But to reiterate, the president said, and I quote, we had a decent opening." No, you didn't. You had a shitty opening, sir. You were number one for one fucking weekend. A $200 million summer blockbuster superhero film. You were number one for one weekend. That's a decent opening? A decent opening compared to what? Okay. We had a decent opening, so we learned there is an audience. To go forward, we need to make it a little edgier and darker with more emphasis on action. You want to make a Green Lantern film edgier and darker and put more emphasis on action. You don't understand who the Green Lantern is. Have you even ever read a Green Lantern comic book? There are so many more aspects to Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps than dark and edgy. Each of those characters, each of Jordan's fellow Green Lanterns have personality. They have a story of their own. They have gifts and abilities that contribute to the overall Green Lantern Corps. Green Lantern has some of the best mythology you will ever read in modern comic book literature. In comic book lore, the Green Lanterns have some of the best mythology. Stories, those are good fucking stories. And yet, once again, Warner Brothers, like so many film studios, because at the end of the day, the only thing they give a shit about is this. At the end of the day, this is the only fucking thing that matters. So you're going to whore out a great property and a great fucking... You're going to whore out Green Lantern, once again, for this. It's like I said, no one in for the most part, Hollywood, well, no, I can't say that no one in Hollywood, because there are people in Hollywood who do. But the vast majority of Hollywood, you don't give a shit about artistic integrity. You don't. You don't care. As long as you make a bottom line at the end of the day, that's the only thing you're really worried about. And I can say the same thing for DC Comics. For the most part, a lot of them don't give a shit about artistic integrity. That's why they milk the same shit and these franchises over and 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 over again. Because you don't care. You don't care. But how fucking wrong are you, Mr. Robinoff? Who the fuck, matter of fact, who the fuck are you? Okay? The Warner Brothers Film Group president. Okay, I wonder how you got there. If you making dumbass decisions like this, that couldn't have gotten you there. Okay? But I am wondering, because it's like I said, a bunch of fucks in business suits who don't give a shit, who have no artistic or creative integrity. And they really don't give a shit as long as they make their paper at the end of the day. That's all they care about. Fuck you, dude. Seriously. I would have more respect if it was like, you know, a former DC Comics, you know, writer, former DC Comics artist, you know, former editor, you know, to give you an example of who I'm talking about, for all my problems that I have with Joe Quesada over at Marvel, at least he was in the field. You see what I'm saying? At least Joe Quesada, you know, at least he worked on comics before he got to where he is now. And you and y'all wonder why I don't flock to these fucking superhero movies like that anymore. You wonder why I don't flock to these fucking blockbusters anymore. Who was the one that said Green Lantern? I still haven't seen Green Lantern. Still haven't seen it. I saw one trailer and a couple of commercials, and I said, man, that movie's gonna fucking suck. And guess what? Guess who was right? I don't really like to blow my own horn, to toot my own horn as much. But I was fucking right. And you can't say that I wasn't. I was right. The numbers speak for themselves. This fucking movie came out my birthday weekend. Okay? This movie fucking came out on June 18th, 2011. $200 million to make this film, not including the marketing costs. So I don't know how much they spent for marketing. $200 million. It's been out for almost 2 months, and it still has yet to make its budget in revenue, in worldwide revenue. That's a flop. That's a failure. It sucked. And guess who was right about it? Guess who didn't spend money on that shit? Guess who heard? Guess who got tons of fucking messages on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter about, oh, Larry, you was right, man. I went and saw that shit. I should have listened to you, bro. So say what you will about me, I'm just sitting up here wasting my fucking breath, okay? Because I actually know what the fuck I'm talking about. So once again, and I don't even want to discuss the whole shit about like they're gonna reboot Batman as soon as the Nolan series is over because they want to do a Justice League tie-in. I'm sorry, Marvel has been wrecking DC's ass as far as the movies are concerned. They've been fucking over them boys since the first X-Men dropped, and that was 11 years ago. Marvel's been running this motherfucker for 11 years. And yeah, DC did have The Dark Knight. DC had The Dark Knight. Okay? And they have the last Nolan Batman. And they have The Man of Steel coming out. But other than those two superheroes that we've been seeing done. That's another thing. DC, Warner Brothers and DC can't make a superhero film that's not Superman or Batman. They can't. Which is funny, since DC and Warner Brothers can put out all these kick-ass animation films. The Warner Brothers and DC animated films are fucking flawless. But for some reason, that doesn't transpire to live action. They can't do it. I said it here. I said it here. You can't fucking do it. You don't have the ability to do it. You don't have the talent in your studio and in your offices to do it. I dare you, DC and Warner Brothers, to prove me wrong on this. Come out with a Wonder Woman live action movie or a Flash live action movie that can topple anything that Marvel put out. And I'm a DC fanboy. But I can acknowledge that Marvel actually does make... Oh, Marvel made shitters too. You know, because Marvel made Elektra, X-Men X3, The Last Stand, X-Men Origins, the Fantastic Four series, Ghost Rider. Marvel has had its... Blade 3. Marvel has had its shitters too. Spider-Man 3. Don't think that Marvel hasn't put out shitty movies too. But they're good movies? Come on, man. They running this shit. And it's kind of funny, considering how old Warner Brothers Studios is, that you have like literal Marvel Studios just come up in here and just take your shit. Take your shit. It's hilarious. But it's well deserved. It is. It's well deserved. So, with that said, DC Comics, Warner Brothers, step your game up. You wanna know why? Because Marvel is running a train on you motherfuckers. And ain't a damn thing you can do about it. You wanna know why? Because when Nolan's done with his Batman, guess what? You're going to be in a shame shitter you found yourself with the Schumacher Batmans. And when Zack Snyder is done with your Supermans, same shit you found yourself with fucking Superman Returns. So step your fucking game up. With that said, I'm fucking done. Because I can keep going, but this video is almost 50 fucking minutes. So, with that said, this is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. The Commander-in-Chief is tired now, and he's signing off. Catch you cats later. Peace.